9.
Emma there.
Emma, can you start the recording, please? That's it.
Thank you.
That's the
Right.
start.
Thanks very much, Emma. Welcome to those in attendance at the remote meeting of the local review body of Aberdeen City Council on Wednesday, the 16th of December 2020. Please note that the meeting will be recorded and published online for public access after the meeting. Can all attendees switch off their camera and mute their microphones when not speaking? The camera and microphone should only be switched on when you are invited to speak. Guidance on how to do this is contained within the guidance issued to you. I will now ask the clerk to advise the members participating today and for all the members to confirm their attendance once their names have been announced by the clerk so that it's clear for the recording of the meeting and can also be recorded by the clerk for the minute. As the local review body contains quasi-judicial business, members are reminded that they should not leave the room during the meeting or the consideration of any application. The meeting, I'll hand over actually to Ms McBain first to do a roll call.
Okay, thank you, convener. So if you can just let me know that you're here for the recording. So Councillor Bolton.
Here.
Councillor Duncan.
Here.
Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Mackenzie.
Here.
Okay, thank you. I'll hand back over to the chairperson.
Thanks very much. The meeting has been convened in response to one request for a review of the decision taken by the appointed officer under the council scheme of delegation. Members of the local review body have before them copies of the review documents as listed in the notice calling the meeting. I will now ask Ms McBain, the assistant clerk, to outline the procedure to be followed to conduct these reviews. Back to yourself, Ms McBain.
Thank you, convener. So members have the procedure note which was circulated with the meeting papers and is intended to set out the wider framework within which the review process operates. From this, it is clear that the first task for the review body is to come to a decision on whether the review documents contain sufficient information for the case to be determined without further procedure, and by that it is meant without further information or representations. To assist, I feel it would be helpful to mention the following. Firstly, that the regulations governing the local review process require that all matters which the applicant intends to raise in the review must be set out in or accompany the notice of review. Secondly, that the focus of the review should be on the basis of what was before the appointed officer when a decision was made, and only in exceptional circumstances will new or additional matters be permitted to be taken into account. Thirdly, to note that the modernisation of the planning system, which included revisal of the planning appeals process, of which this local review body is part, removed the previous right on the part of an applicant to insist on a hearing and replace that with the local review body, providing them with the power to choose a procedure which more accurately reflects the facts and circumstances of the individual case. And lastly, that guidance issued by the Scottish Government's Chief Planner in 2011 stated that reviews by local review bodies should be conducted by means of full consideration of the application afresh. This review should take the form of a structured discussion led by the chairperson to consider the matter set out in the notice of review before you, and I would conclude by drawing your attention in particular to points 10 to 12 of the procedure note. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs McBain. Turning to consideration of the review in respect of the decision to refuse the application for detailed planning permission for the extension of dormers to the rear and the installation of replacement windows to the rear and side at 57 Blenheim Place, Aberdeen, application 200660. You'll now hear from the planning advisor in attendance, Mr. Gavin Evans, who will provide us with a brief description of the application proposal and a reminder of the reasons why the application was refused. I would point out that Mr. Evans attends today's meeting to provide us with the necessary professional planning guidance because he has not been involved in the earlier consideration of the application under review. Mr. Evans will not, however, be asked to express any views on the merits of the proposed development, and in effect, his role will be a neutral one involving the provision of factual information and guidance only. Mr. Evans.
Thank you, convener. If you bear with me a moment, I'll just share my screen in the presentation here.
Thank you.
Okay, hopefully everyone can see that now. So thank you, convener. Yes, before us today we have a request to review an application which was refused under delegated powers for detailed planning permission for the extension of dormers to the rear and installation of replacement windows to the rear and side of 57 Blenheim Place. The review's been found to have been submitted with all of the necessary information and within the time limit of 3 months following the appointed officer's decision. From the notice of review that's been supplied, no new matters have been raised, and in terms of further procedure, the applicant has requested that a site inspection be undertaken by the review body to allow members to understand the surrounding context. And so I'll just give a brief description of the site to begin with. The application concerns an upper flat in a 2-storey building with painted dormer windows to the rear and roof lights to the front. The upper flat occupies the first floor and the roof of the building. The property itself lies on the western side of Blenheim Place, here indicated in red on that plan, directly opposite its junction with Osborne Place. The property is of a traditional granite construction. If I just flick forward to the elevation. Traditional granite construction with slate roof and is served by a rear lane off which there's garage access. The windows in the upper flat are of a non-traditional sash and case look-alike style, formed in coated aluminium. A centrally positioned door gives access to the lower flat at number 59, with access for number 57 obtained from a door set off to the left-hand side of this image, with a stair enclosure positioned on the gable. The windows of the lower flat are mixed with white UPVC frames on the front elevation and brown wood effect frames present on the rear. Just flick on to the next slide. So it's the upper flat that we're concerned with here, which comprises the first floor and the roof space. To the south, the property is bounded by a car park which serves offices at the nearby Blenheim House. Further south on the opposite side of that surface car park is another office building, Blenheim Gate, which is of a modern construction. So this is the car park we're referring to that actually serves this office building here, and then there's a further modern office building immediately next to that. The site lies within the Albine Place and Rubislaw Conservation Area as well. So turning to the proposal, we do have something of a procedural matter to discuss and bring to your attention today, Chairperson. Members will note that the application description and the officer's report refer to the extension of dormers to the rear and the replacement of windows at the rear and side of the property, with the assessment having been undertaken on the basis of all windows to the rear of the building, comprising both upper and lower flats, being replaced. On closer inspection of the plans, which don't clearly identify the windows to be replaced, for example through numbering or colouring of which windows are in question, it's evident from the window schedule. If I flick forward, so I've just coloured these in red, that's an addition that I've made, but if we flick on to this image here, the schedule of the windows to be replaced, the numbers of those and the dimensions of the openings, from those it's evident that the window schedule, that the proposal relates in fact to the replacement of windows in the upper flat only, both front and back. So that's been confirmed by the description that was provided by the applicant in the application form, which referred only to referred to window replacement rather than window replacement specifically at the rear and side. Minor corrections and alterations to descriptions are occasionally made by administrative staff at the validation stage in order to ensure consistency and completeness. However, in this instance, it appears that the changes made to the description have actually altered its meaning and influenced how it's been assessed by the planning service. This means ultimately that an incorrect description was used for the purposes of neighbour notification and may have affected neighbours' view on whether to make representation to the proposal or not. So as Ms McBain, the committee clerk, explained at the start of the meeting, the local review body considers proposals entirely afresh, and that de novo approach means that this procedural oversight can actually be remedied via the correction of the description, reverting back to what the applicant had submitted in the application form and undertaking neighbour notification at this stage. Once a representation period of 21 days has elapsed, the case may be referred back to the local review body for reconsideration of the review at that point, at which point we can have comfort that local residents haven't been disadvantaged by that error in the notification process. So really, I think, Chairperson, it's probably appropriate for us to consider that point first and foremost before we get into the merits of the case.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Evans, for obviously that. I think you're absolutely correct that I would suggest that we defer any decision until proper neighbour notification has been made, so that people are aware it's the top floor flat to the front and rear. Can I just get agreement from my fellow members? Councillor Mackenzie?
Agreed, yes.
Councillor Duncan?
Yes, of course, I agree with that.
Yeah. So I could maybe ask, I don't know if it's Mrs. McBain or yourself, Gavin. So we can just agree to halt the process and to go out for proper neighbour notification and then to revert it back to the LRB. Do you need anything else from us at this stage?
I don't think so, Chairperson. I think that allows us to go ahead and do that, and then we can arrange with members a suitable date for the LRB to reconvene in the new year.
Okay, that's super. Okay, well, thank you all for attending today. Appreciate it's a briefer meeting than we would normally have had, but I think it's important that we follow due process. So thank you all for your attendance. We will reconvene this meeting once neighbour notifications have been served and the period conducted to allow that to happen. So okay, thank you all very much. And if I don't speak to any of you before the end of the year, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry
Okay, thank you,
Christmas to you too.